But okay, so we agree Joe Burrow to Cincinnati at 1.
And why is it that Joe Burrow's the top? Because he's thrown 60 touchdowns, but does that really mean as much now?
So the biggest thing about this draft is that we don't have that guy who just balled out and you saw on the field that he is clearly the best player on the field, like with Lamar Jackson,
Well, you see that in Chase
with
Young.
Baker Mayfield.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, with these, yeah, as soon as I see Baker Mayfield, this guy's on.
No. I said Chase Young has proven that he is the top
exactly.
player.
And that was the thing about Chase Young
Is that
was
they were
when
dominating
he was playing,
everybody.
he dominated every play of every game on the field. I'm not sure we saw that with Joe Burrow. Now, he had a great year, no doubt.
Everybody just looks at that 60 number at the top of his touchdown totals and they freak out. But what they don't see is he had an unbelievable offensive line. He
And
had
those
really
wide
good
receivers,
he had a great wide receiver
insane.
core.
Yeah.
He had 3 guys that'll go in the first round when they get drafted.
At least 2. Yeah.
That was a class that they have said that might be better than the Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry group that they had before. You know, they had a good running back and they had an unbelievable defense. So he won all these games and he was on the field a lot because the overall team was awesome.
I agree. And the defense was spectacular for them. I mean, shutting down Alabama, shutting down Ohio State, shutting down literally everybody that they came up against.
That means that there's no pressure on Joe Burrow. He could throw the ball away if he wants. I mean, he had very little pressure on him.
But is he that much better than Tua? Is he that much better than Justin Herbert?
I don't think that's the case. I think Tua probably...
The problem with Tua is
injuries.
Talent-wise, yes. Talent-wise, I think Tua is actually slightly better than Joe Burrow. But it's the injuries. And already 3 teams have expressed concern with his injuries pre-draft.
But the question is, and Colin Cowherd, who I like sometimes, he came up with a very good point. Who are these 3 organizations?
Yeah.
How about if they're the Bengals,
the Lions,
teams that are horrible,
Jets.
that have made horrible choices in the first round, they go, he's off our board. But someone like the Patriots, someone like the
Agreed.
Some of these
there's a reason that they're anonymous.
Yes. Be a man, and man up and say it if you're going to say it. But I agree. So outside of the first pick, it's consensus that is Chase Young.
Yes. Number 2, no matter who's picking there, it's Chase Young.
And there's a really big grading curve on quarterbacks anyway. So if you're a really good quarterback but nowhere near as good as a defensive end, you still get priority because a good quarterback in a good system will have a bigger impact than a single defensive end will. But as an individual player and talent,
yes,
Chase Young,
best player in this draft.
By far.
By far.
Buckeyes, they had a good year, but a lot of it was because of him.
Yep. And so Washington Redskins taking Chase Young at number 2, I think makes a lot of sense. Number 3, the Giants, I think they could go a lot of ways. It won't be a quarterback. What they could do with that pick, and what has been rumored, is trade down because they're not in need of a quarterback. They're not in need of a defensive stalwart player. They're not needing an offensive lineman per se. I honestly think they have a bad offensive line, but they're comfortable with what they have. The question is, are they so sold on one of the better defensive players in the draft that they stay at 3? Yeah. Or do they do the smart thing, in my opinion, and trade down and allow Miami and San Diego to outbid each other to come up to 3 to get the quarterback that they want?
Well, because if you're looking at defense, after Chase Young, it gets a little weird.
Yeah.
Because then you've got Isaiah
Simmons.
Yeah, Simmons, who is a tweener.
Yes.
He's one of the better athletes.
He's a very small 4th linebacker. Will linebacker. So will linebacker being a weak side linebacker. He's defending probably the slot receiver coming out of the end, or maybe the fast tight end, the non-blocking tight end.
But the thing about him is he's a really good tackler. He's a good hitter, and he's got good cover skills.
He's always around the ball.
Yeah.
Which, you know what team would love to have a player like that?
Cowboys.
Yeah.
But you know,
can we figure out how to get Simmons?
Yeah. So the real question is he's really looking like a smaller Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
But the question is that is a really scary prospect because at 220, he's not when the normal
If an offensive lineman in the NFL
at 3
gets up on him,
can he get off?
yes.
So that's where a lot of the intangibles come in.
And is he fast enough to be a safety?
No.
No.
But
Because everybody's playing 4 cornerbacks.
But it has
back
nothing.
there now.
For me, it has nothing to do because he runs a 4.6.
Yeah.
No, sorry, a 4.40. He's really fast.
Okay.
The thing is when you're at 220 at 6'1", it's not bookend straight end speed. It's can you move your hips in time?
Yes.
Are you maneuverable
Absolutely
enough
true.
to be able to keep up with an Odell Beckham or a Hopkins who can change direction on a dime?
Yeah.
That's the problem you have because usually you try to match your defensive backs and your backfield to be able to match up quickness and athleticism wise with with the top teams in the country.
Right.
That just sounded like college. The top teams in the NFL. So you go down a little bit further. The New York Giants, to me, are sitting pretty because they've got their quarterback. Whether he becomes their franchise quarterback or it's just the guy that they're sticking with. They gave him the reins. They got to see it through at least a little bit. The problem they have is they have defensive needs, linebacker, and some safety.
Yeah.
They have Peppers, but they need a little bit more, and they need defensive backs. But the real big need they have is offensive line.
Yes.
So they are in a pretty pickle, as Ron Burgundy would say, and they could
use more first round picks. I wonder if that's a spot where they could
probably move up into the 11 to 14 pick range,
right?
Get a first or second round pick for their trouble, and still have a first round pick where there could probably be 2 offensive linemen out of the 4 best, tackles still there,
right?
So,
especially with how good this wide receiver core is, that's usually the breaking point right there. Is do teams go on a run for wide receiver or do they go on a run for offensive linemen? Because those are the 2 areas that there are quite a few guys who are very, very good, not exceptional, but very, very good. So you might be able to get a guy who's going to be a starting left tackle for you for 6 to 7 years in the 12 to 20 range.
Yes.
In this draft.
Depending on how the pieces fall.
And you might be able to get a wide receiver who can be a very, very good wide receiver for you for 10 years.
No, they said that this year
between 8 and 18, 19.
But they said that this year is the most talented wide receiver class probably
because you got all the
years.
LSU receivers, you got all the Alabama receivers.
Oklahoma, you have CeeDee Lamb. You've got a whole bunch of guys from small schools that have ended up being really talented. But the thing is so many teams have needs for quarterbacks and offensive linemen that everything's been pushed back. And there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, you could get a normal first round wide receiver in the second round.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And so the Cowboys, as we'll talk about in another episode, are going to be looking at, do we wait to the second round to take a wide receiver or do we take that wide receiver in the first round?